Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communications, and how to build strong family relationships. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why parents need to keep chiming in on social issues. In this video, we're going to be talking about the social issues that are facing our children and what parents can do to help combat some of those social issues and how to have good, open discussions with our children so that we can do even more. Our children today are more controlled than previous generations. I don't know if you've noticed that. In fact, I was talking recently with a group of young ladies, young girls. They were all between the ages of 11 and 18. And when I was talking with them, they were mentioning how at their school, now this is post-COVID, way post-COVID, meaning there's no COVID restrictions whatsoever, that the school is forcing them to go into the lunchroom in a certain order, sit in certain places, not be able to get out of those places. They can't talk to their friends. They have to raise their hand if they need to go to the bathroom. These are junior high school students. Junior high school students. Do you remember junior high? Do you remember walking around lots of different places on the campus of the school, talking to your friends, sitting out on the wall of the flower beds and sitting by the flagpole and milling around the lunchroom, getting an extra piece of pizza? You know, those things that we used to do. In some schools, in some places, they're not doing those things anymore. They are controlling where they can go, when they can go, what they can say, what they can't say. They're telling them all the time. We shared a word the other day with one of my nephews, just a little word, and he was like, oh, what does that mean, you know? And we tell him the little definition. He's like, perfect. I'm going to use that word at school because if I say this other word, I'm going to get in trouble. But if I say this word, nobody will know what it means, but I'll know what it means. And then I can feel like I'm truthful in my speech. I thought, whoa, that's crazy. That's crazy that my nephew, and I'm not even telling you the word because I don't want it to go out there and be some word, and now my nephew can't say some word that he just wants to say to a friend. My nephew has to make up his own language, and when somebody figures out what his language is, he's going to have to make up new language. Why would a child have to make up their own language? It's because they don't want someone to know what they're saying. Why have young people always made up words, that have certain meanings? Well, now we have more words with more meanings than we've ever had before coming out of the younger population. And it's because they're trying to say things to each other without other people telling them, you can't say what you think. You can't say what you want to say. How hard. It's very difficult. So one problem, social issue that's facing our children is they're being silenced. They are not allowed some of their rights and their freedoms of speech, even though everyone would tell them that they have freedom of speech. They would just say, but if you hurt anybody else's feelings, obviously you cannot say it. But that means that then they don't have freedom of speech. And another thing that's happening to our young people is we are saying to them, if you get your feelings hurt in any way, if somebody says something to you that you don't like, then you must attack them. You must bring that person to justice. Well, what kind of justice exists with your feelings or your comfort level? That's just a funny notion to even consider, isn't it? So they start trying to be vindictive against people just because a person says something that is not comfortable to them. So instead of teaching our children, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you, we are teaching the children, words are the worst thing that could happen to you. You better control them. And if you can't control them, you better find somebody else who can. Because you don't want to have to feel something that comes from a word that you don't like. This means that we're making all of our children victims. This is a problem. So number one, they're silenced. They can't say anything. Number two, the things that they are told to say keep them in a victim mentality. We're also disenfranchising them from the people that care about them most, such as their parents. So in social media and on TV, the messages that are coming at children are, you can't can't trust your parents. You can't trust your parents. Don't tell your parents. We'll tell you instead. We know the truth. This is what your parents are not telling you. This is what the children are learning, that the parents don't have their best interest in mind, that somehow the parents are just selfish, that the parents are just controlling, that the parents actually need to be silenced, and if the parents hurt their feelings, then they need to be controlled by somebody else outside of the family. We even have legislation that's coming through internationally in recent years that would control the parents and tell the parents, you can say this to your child, but you can't say this to your child, which means that actually the parent of the child becomes the state. This is scary, especially when we are teaching our children certain untruths that can be very detrimental to them. We're going to talk about these untruths and how you can establish good patterns of communication with your children to help them navigate all of these social issues. But before I do, click the subscribe button now. This channel has a ton of deep content related to you, your children, your relationships, and how to solve problems in your family and in society. You're not going to want to miss it, so click subscribe now. And don't forget that notification bell so that you're notified every time something new comes out. There are 3 myths that are facing children. I'm taking these myths from a book called The Coddling of the American Mind. In the book, The Coddling of the American Mind, the author says that the young people today, and we're talking in the collegiate level, high school, junior high, but even down, I've noticed as young as elementary school children, are taught that what doesn't kill you makes you weaker, that you should follow your feelings, and that there are good people and bad people. So let's talk about those 3, because those 3 together are a very dangerous combination for the psyche and the sociality of a child. If what doesn't kill you makes you weaker, that means A, you don't understand 90s pop music, because there was a song that said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Remember, like, we used to know that. We used to want to be strong, be people who could do things, accomplish things. But now, if what doesn't kill you makes you weaker, that means that everything that happens to you or around you must personally affect you, and you cannot move past it. In fact, you have to carry it with you like a backpack forever. Think Pilgrim's Progress, okay? Then number 2, follow your feelings. Oh no, well, this is a problem. Because if I have to follow my feelings, then that means I can't ever get out of feeling weak all the time, because I'm going to have feelings. Some will be productive feelings, some will not be productive feelings. I don't get to choose on any of these things. If I just follow my feelings, then I am thrown like a ship without anybody at the helm. I'm just going to be tossed to and fro. Follow your feelings? What about examine your feelings? Think about your thoughts and plan your emotions. That's what a strong person does. But a person who's in emotional bondage just follows their feelings. So now what about the one that is, there are good people and there are bad people? Well, what this does is this says, if something happens to you that makes you have a feeling, not only do you have to carry it forever because it's made you weaker, and you have to do something about it in an emotional way because you have to follow your feelings. Now you have to identify that other person as a villain or someone who is trying to hurt you, thereby trying to hurt other people. And people need to be protected from that bad person. So this means parents could be bad if their ideologies do not agree with what the child has been taught on social media. This means teachers could be bad. This means lawmakers could be bad. This means that anybody who cares about a child potentially could be bad. That leaves the child alone. They have then put them in a place of abandonment because they have pushed every other person away that cares about them. That is a problem for our children. So how are we going to help them? How are we going to make sure that they don't get caught in those traps? Well, one of the key things that we can do is make sure that we have good, open communication, good discussion with our children on a regular basis. I'm talking daily. You know that old adage that it's all about quality of time and not quantity of time? It's just not true. People who have the most quantity of time with your children have the greatest influence. So you should be searching for quantity of time with your child as well as quality of time. And having good discussion daily should hopefully satisfy both of those, the quantity and the quality of time. So how do you have good, deep, meaningful communication with your children? Many parents struggle with that. In fact, I think there are some parents that feel kind of insecure about starting conversations with their children because they've been shut down so many times, because the children have pushed back again and again. What you need to know is that when they are pushing back against you, that actually is a sign that they need you the most. In fact, this is a sign that they need other influences less, okay? So keep that in mind. Remember what I call Janet's junk food principle, because my friend Janet thought of it. So remember that when your child is asking for sugar, 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 you know that they need vegetables, 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 right? You know, whoa, we've had too much sugar. We've got to dial it back. Well, the same thing for anything else, okay? So if they are asking to be away from you, they don't want to be with you, they want to be with friends, 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 or on the phone, 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 then what that means is they need less of what? Friends and phone, and they need more time with you. In fact, anytime you're going to remove something out of a child's life, such as friends or phone, something that impacts the child socially, you have to replace it in order for the child to feel comfortable. What you're going to replace it with is you, okay? You are going to be the example to your child of what they need most. They need good human connection, good discussion with you. Now, if I'm going to start having communication with my child, what I'm going to do is I am going to start my communication with them as awkwardly as possible. Okay? So what in the world? Awkward? Why would you be awkward? They'll push back on you. No, they'll admire you. They'll admire you for your intentionalness, if that's even a word, your deliberateness, and for your honesty and truth. So what I would do is I would pull my child aside and I would say, I fully know that right now you're not in the mood to talk to me, and that you actually probably aren't usually in the mood to talk to me. But I have decided that by pulling away from you and saying, nope, I'm not going to talk to you either, that I'm actually hurting you and I'm hurting our whole family dynamic. So as much as you show me you don't want to talk to me, then I am definitely going to be making the effort to talk to you more, because I know that's something that you need, and I hope you'll want to talk with me too, because I'm going to make an effort with that. Well, now we've laid everything out on the table, okay? The elephant in the room has been talked about. You don't want to talk to me because you think I'm old-fashioned or whatever it is. You can bring in some of those things, or you can just say, I know you don't want to, and I've been pulling away, but that's the wrong approach. So here I go. This is going to be my new approach. So now you've told them your approach. So they don't have to feel put out by your approach anymore. You already talked about it. You told them this is what you're going to do. And here's the other beautiful thing is that it was kind of a little bit of reverse psychology. So you're telling them basically cause and effect. You're saying, so as long as you act like you don't want to talk to me, I'm going to know you need lots of talking to me. So then they're like, oh man, I've got to change my communication here. I've got to stop sending out the message like I don't want to talk to mom or I don't want to talk to dad, because then I'm going to have to do tons of this talk. And as they start sending out a different message, guess what? Hearts start to change. After you're as awkward as possible, then say, but you know what? We don't have to talk about deep stuff all the time. Let's just talk about anything. In fact, let's talk about right now, what are we going to make for dinner? And I need you to help me. Okay, so then start talking about just regular things, talking about the favorite knife that you have and why, and talk about your favorite cheese and how stinky cheese is better than the other kind, or not, whatever you think, okay? Talk about what you would just normally talk to anybody about. Make small talk. That makes you a real person. Then later, when it's time to have a really good deep talk, hopefully it can happen just on the heels of small talk or as part of small talk. You can be having small talk and you can say, you know, I was reading in the paper today that this was happening. This is very concerning for me because people are promoting something that's not a truth. I know a truth is this, but they're promoting this. What do you think about it? And then here's the clincher. When they tell you what they think about it, even if it is opposite than you listen and don't lecture. So, that's an interesting perspective, you might say. I'm glad to know that you think of it that way. Have you considered this? So then just pose a question. Don't tell them they have to believe the same as you. Don't lecture them until they've had enough. Just pose a question. And if they talk to the question, great. If they don't worry. When people get questions posed to them, they consider them. Those questions take root. And after you pose your question, move on to something else. Talk about something else that's going to be happening that night, or get back to talking about the dinner, whatever it is. So have a lot of small talk. Talk about the daily things, bring in the real stuff, pose good questions, and you will start to develop a great habit of communication. My final tip for you today is have regular formal talk times too. So what I was just talking about was informal talk times, but you want to have formal talk times. In this book here, Parenting a House United, I talk about how to have regular mentor meetings with your children and how to have something called a parent counseling session, among many other things, for how to have really deliberate formal communication with your children, as well as how to improve those informal moments. In this book, you will learn how to set up a meeting that your child will look forward to. If you've enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy my next video, which is actually a full class dedicated to helping you overcome some of those traps in your communications and your relationships that you might not recognize you're falling into. The video is called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. Click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.